Good morning, mathematicians. We're looking at lesson 17, multiplying decimals and whole numbers. Well, before we jump into number 1 and 2, let's think a little bit about what we have talked about base 10 blocks, how we've really reassigned base 10 blocks when it comes to decimals. So now if I am looking at one flat, which is a 10 by 10 array, we know that we are looking at one whole. Now this is communicating the one place, right? That whole number position. If I am looking at one rod or one column, that is communicating a tenth, 1/10, right? So the position that this is now communicating is a tenth, all right? Now, if we are looking at a single, which sometimes is drawn as a tiny square, I like to draw it just as an X to make it clearly different than the ones place. But either way, that is communicating the hundredth place. So we have had fun with our base 10 blocks in our lessons, and that helps us with the concept of these decimal values. But when we're representing it in a problem like this, we can use the representational version of it, which is just drawing these out. And that is what I'm going to do in this lesson 17 cool down video, but also throughout our lessons. So we'll take these particular base 10 block designations, we'll just take those as kind of for granted as we go from here. So we are asked to find the value of each expression. And yes, we're going to explain or show our reasoning. So first of all, let's take a look at what our decimal value is. Our decimal value is 4/10. So that is like 4 columns, right? Or 4 rods. It's not a whole, it's 4/10. And then look, this means that we're going to have 2 groups of those. So there is one group of 4/10. Here is my second group of 4/10. And now I can see I have one group of 4/10 and 2 groups of 4/10. If I have 2 groups of 4/10, how many tenths do I have? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've double checked it. I have 8 tenths. So I now know that 2 times 4/10 equals 8 tenths, right? I have shown it with a representation there in how I utilized my base 10 block drawing, but certainly we can also talk it out. We don't have to draw it out. So let's go ahead and underneath this, let's just write an example of how we might explain this. So we could also say that our answer is 8/10, and we could say this, that 4/10 is 4, and now let's write the word form here, 4/10, and double that is 8/10, or, and now I'll write it in its standard form or base 10 numeral, 8/10. So here, boys and girls, we have answered number 1 completely. I have done it with a representation of the base 10 blocks. I have done it with the abstract in an equation, but then in red down below, we also did explain our reasoning. Okay, let's go on down to number 2, and let's notice the decimal that we're thinking about here in number 2. The decimal that we're thinking about are 3/100ths. So this is the first thing that I zero in on. I am thinking about 3/100ths. So I represent the hundredths place. I like to do it just with these tiny X's because 10 of those would equal a tenth, right? Now I am going to make 4 groups of 3/100ths. So I currently see 1 group on my paper. Now I see 2 groups. Now I see 3 groups. And now I see 4 groups. I could circle those to show those groups. Here's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, and 4 groups, right? So I am looking at 4 groups of 3/10. Now, how many, not 3/10, excuse me, 3/100ths. I see 4 groups of 3/100ths. Now, if I have 4 groups of 3/100ths, I end with 12 hundredths. And what we know about decimals is that hundredths place is over here, 2 away from the decimal point. So to write 12 hundredths, I would put a 2 in the hundredths place, and I would put a 1 in the tenths place, right? I'm going to draw a line here to make it clear that we're looking at number 2 down below. So now I have it in a representational form, but I also have it in an abstract form. I have the equation actually written out there. Okay, and I'm just going to take away those place value lines that I drew just for clarity. Now, we have done this in those 2 different ways, but just like what we did above, let's go ahead down below and let's give an explanation. So I'm going to write out our answer. Our answer is 12 hundredths. Now, if I was going to explain that, I could do it similarly to above, and I could say that 3 hundredths is 3, and now let's write out that place value in word form, is 3 hundredths. And 4 groups of that is 12 hundredths, or, and now let's put it in our base 10 numeral form or standard form like that. All right, boys and girls, that finishes out our very first cool down on multiplying decimals. That finishes out lesson 17.